All right, guys, we are going to go into our history. We get to start a new book this week. We are going to go into the 13 colonies and how they became their own country, how the United States started. So you're gonna get a new book, and if you'll look at your book on page, I believe it's page 2, you're gonna see a map of what the United States looked like at the time. So I'm gonna pull this up. There you go. From Colonies to Independence. So this is our new book. And here is page 2. This is a map of what the United States look like. I actually kind of have a better one that I'm going to show you. That way you can see more of it. Give me just a second. Put this down. I think this would be a better, give you a better idea of what it looked like at the time. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's our butterfly book. So this is a map of the United States in 1760. That's over 250 years ago. This area that is green was unsettled. If there were people there, it was more like the Native Americans and things like that. It wasn't part of the colonies. Let me see if I can zoom in. Here we go. So these are the 13 colonies. Remember, England decided that they wanted some of the power and the glory of the Americas that the Spanish were having. So they started coming across the ocean and they set up a few settlements. Virginia was the first successful one. And then came the Pilgrims, and then the Puritans came and they settled in Massachusetts. And over time, these 13 colonies developed. And a colony, now this is before it was the United States of America. These actually are the 13 colonies. They were part of England or Great Britain at the time. And a colony is like land that is owned by another country that's far away. So this land in the Americas was owned by Great Britain. Okay, so let's get back to our book. There we go. So it says, long ago, America was called the colonies. Colonies are lands controlled by other countries that are far away. There were 13 colonies in America. Many of the people in the 13 colonies came from England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, though some of them came from France, Germany, and other European countries too. I believe this is one of your questions, so make sure you pay attention to that. I'm going to kind of say it again. Many of the people in the 13 colonies came from England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, though some of them came from France and Germany and other European countries too. But most of them came from the England, Wales, and Scotland, and all those areas were actually controlled by England, okay? So here are our 13 colonies. We have Massachusetts, New Hampshire. Here's, oh, this is Massachusetts too. There's Boston. This is actually now Maine. That's cool. Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Virginia. There's Jamestown right there. There's Roanoke Island, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So Texas wasn't even a thought at this time, okay? It says, generally, people living in the 13 colonies had traveled to America for a better life. Remember, we talked about how the Pilgrims and the Puritans came for freedom of religion. Pretty much all the colonists who came over to the 13 colonies, they just wanted to make their lives better. Whether it wanted to be for religion, or maybe they wanted to try to make more money, maybe they just wanted a fresh start. Most of them came over to make their life better. Many thought of themselves as British, not as American. So since they were coming from Great Britain or England, they still considered themselves British. They were just living in a different part, is how they believed it was. They liked to buy clothes and books from Great Britain. They liked to drink tea. They obeyed King George III, who ruled over England. So they were still controlled by England. So that is their king, King George III, and they obeyed his rules. He ruled over England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and the colonies in America. The colonists were proud of their king. Oh, look how fancy he is. Great Britain had just won a war against France, but to pay for that war, King George had to borrow a lot of money. So wars are really, really expensive. And in order for Great Britain to be able to defeat France, they had to borrow money from other countries to be able to pay for the weapons they needed and to be able to pay the soldiers. So now he has a lot of money that he has to pay back to these other countries, because we know if somebody doesn't pay us back our money, we're going to be mad, and he doesn't want the other countries to be mad at him. So he was trying to find a way to find the money to pay them back. Where could he find the money to pay back what he borrowed? The answer was from the colonists in America. So he was going to find the money somehow from those 13 colonies that were in America. I don't know if I would like that. If somebody wanted to repay their debt and they wanted me to help them do it, I don't know. Let's see how the colonists felt about it and how he did it. The king and his parliament decided that when the colonists bought such things as sugar, paint, newspapers, writing paper, glass, or tea, they would be charged a payment or a sales tax, making the cost of these items more expensive. Now, have you ever gone to the store and you're like, Mom says you have $5 to spend, and you go and you find something for $5.99. Mom says, oh, that's too expensive. I said $5. So then you go find something that says $4.99. 1 penny less than $5, right? You're clear. But then when Mom goes to pay for it, it's like over $5. Like, how does that happen? Well, it's because there's a sales tax on things. And like our cities now, they use that sales tax to fix the roads and the lights and for the schools and things like that. So the king decided he was going to put a tax on everything just the colonists were buying, and that way they would have to pay extra, and he would take that extra money that they were paying for their sales tax, and that's how he was going to pay off his debt. But the colonists didn't really care for this. Now, like I said before, we pay a sales tax, but it fixes the streets that we drive on, and it takes care of our town that we live in. The colonists were paying this extra tax, but it wasn't helping them at all. In fact, it was only helping King George with his debt. So it kind of made him a little bit mad. It says the colonists showed their anger by protesting and not buying any of these things. So they got mad that they were being charged this tax, and they said, fine, we're not going to buy your stuff. And I can pretty much guarantee that made the king kind of angry too, because he wasn't getting what he wanted. It says, in the end, the tax on everything except tea was dropped. So the king finally gave in, and he's like, okay, I'm going to stop taxing everything, but I am still going to tax your tea. That would be like them taxing my Diet Coke. That would make me very angry, right? Let's see. So there is another story of life in the 13 colonies, though. Now, we just talked about how most of the people in the colonies came because they wanted a better life. They chose to come to the colonies. Now, this is the other side of it. There were some people who did not choose to come. So we're going to hear a little bit about that side. It says not everyone had gone there for a better life. Not everyone was free. Many Africans were enslaved and forced to travel to the colonies. Enslaved Africans worked on large plantations or farms growing crops. Their hard work helped to make the British colonies rich and strong. So remember, the slavery in the Americas went all the way back into these 13 colonies when they needed help on the plantations and they couldn't find people to help. So they just started buying slaves from across in other countries, and that's actually a lot of the power or a lot of the manpower that helped these plantations and the British colonies grow rich and strong. Unfortunately, they didn't have the freedoms that the rest of the people in the colonies were experiencing at the time. All right, I am going to stop right there. Remember to go on to Jupiter Ed and go to this history assignment. It's titled Chapter 1, The 13 Colonies. There's a Juno pod, and I believe there are 5 questions about what I just read for you to answer. You can watch this video again if you need help, or you can pull this book up. It's right there in the link, and you can read it to yourself if you need help finding those answers. Remember, I suggest you always go back and find your answers in your reading, because you have to be able to prove it, okay? So when you go to open up that Juno Pod, make sure you pull up this book too. That way you can go back and prove your answers to make sure you get that 100. All right, I hope that was helpful for you all. I can't wait to see you all on Monday. If it's past Monday, then I'm glad I got to see you. All right, bye guys.